In this video, I'm going to be making a rosary with 4 knots, such as this one. I begin by cutting a piece of cord about 40 inches. I've heat treated the ends by placing them over a candle and rolling the edges in order to prevent fraying. The first knot will need approximately a 5-inch tail. The blue tool is 5 inches. So we begin by placing the cord to the right and crossing over the front, bringing it back around, and we've made an X shape. Bring it around again underneath the previous wrap, and it should look like this. Move this tray out of the way. And let me get a better shot of that. Okay. We take the long end of the string and put it in this groove. I'm holding the shorter end of the cord with my fingers. You want to pull this tight before you remove the cord. We slide it off. It helps to kind of roll the knot slowly, and you're tugging it at both ends slowly and very gently, rolling these towards the back. And tugging at it really tightly. You can push it down or up. And let me see if I can zoom in on that. So I have a knot right here. After doing the first knot, I'm going to put 10 Hail Mary beads on the cord. Okay, now I have 10 Hail Mary beads on the cord, and you'll notice that I have approximately a 5-inch tail on the end. After each decade, except for the last one, we'll put one Our Father bead on the cord. So it should look like this now. And I'm going to continue to add 4 more decades. Okay, so that's the second decade. Now I'm going to add an Our Father bead. these little white trays I found at the Dollar Tree for a package of 6. It's $1, I think it's $1.25 or $1.29, something like that. And they're made for painting, but they're perfect to put 10 beads in each well. All of my other supplies come from Our Lady's Rosary Makers online. They're based in Kentucky. It's very important to count the Hail Mary beads as we go along. I like to just put my finger in the middle and just make sure there's 2 groups of 5. Okay, looks good. This is a great activity for kids if they're younger. If the younger kids can't do the knots, you can do sort of a production line style in which some people string the beads and others do the knots. It tends to go very quickly if you're making a lot of rosaries that way. After this last decade, we do not put an Our Father bead. Those come later. Okay, so your rosary should now look like this. Put this out of the way. So you see I have 5 decades or 50 Hail Mary beads, but I only have 4 Our Father beads at the moment. The second knot will be approximately an inch above the very last bead that you strung. The reason being is that we want to give a little bit of movement on these beads. If it's too stiff, say if you made the knot right here, it would be too stiff. You wouldn't be able to fold this up easily in your pocket and the cord would break very quickly. So we want to give it a little bit of movement. And we'll do this knot very similar to the first knot. Make sure this is nice and tight. Now you want to make sure you can hold it up to make sure that you have it at the right spot. And you don't want to just tug it really quickly right now because it might go up way too high. So you want to really guide it to exactly where you want it, which is about 3 beads length away from the last bead. Okay. The third knot is done immediately after the second knot. This knot is done a little bit differently. It's kind of tricky and it takes a little bit of practice, but it's doable. So you put the first 2 knots next to each other. You take the tool and you put it underneath. So it should look like this. Make your X with both strands. And try to even out those knots so that they're right next to each other. You don't want one way down here and one way up there, because it will be uneven when you finish the rosary. Now both of these strands will go underneath the knot. And you want to make that as tight as you can before removing the tool. And you want to tighten that knot as much as you possibly can. And then trim off the short piece. You want to keep the long piece intact, but the short piece you want to cut off with maybe 1/4 inch or less of string left. Now your rosary should look like this. It should have 3 knots. And we're going to heat treat the end afterwards, so it won't look like it's sticking out. Okay. We're going to add 1 Our Father bead and 3 Hail Mary beads. And 1 Our Father bead. So we've used all the beads. We don't make a knot just yet. At this point, before we make another knot, you want to put the crucifix on. So go through the front of the crucifix and it should look like this. Hold that in place. The knot should go, the tool should go underneath or behind the crucifix. This single string goes around to make your X. And around again underneath the previous wrap. And you can even wrap it one more time if you like, or more. This goes underneath the knot through the tool. And this is a little bit tricky because you want a little bit of give right here, but you don't want too much room on the crucifix. You don't want the string to be too long. So just go very, very slowly in this knot. So it's pretty tight in there, so I'm going to cut it off. And then off camera, I'm just going to hold this little piece of string right here gently above the flame of a candle or a lighter, not on the flame, but near it so that it gently melts. And then I'll just tap that with my finger. You want to get your finger wet before you touch it, otherwise you'll burn your finger. And then we're done. You have a 4-knot rosary. Thank you and God bless.